If you want to stop a revolution, you don't always send in tanks. Sometimes the most effective weapon is, well, it's just the language used by the revolution's own new leaders.
It's insidious. It starts so small.
Right. A tiny change to a rule here, a revised statistic there, and the cumulative effect is the death of freedom.
It really makes you wonder.
How can a simple, short children's fable with talking cows and horses become one of the sharpest, most enduring political critiques ever written? Today, we are diving deep into George Orwell's extraordinary dystopian novella, Animal Farm.
This is going to be a good one.
And we hope you enjoy a bold new take on book coverage with this extended analysis. It's more than just a summary, which we do include. This feature examines how the author shapes argument, builds influence, and earns or loses your trust.
It really gives you the tools to read with sharper insight.
Exactly. Should you read this book, this should help. It's also excellent for aspiring writers. If you find this expanded format valuable, we'd love to hear from you. Your feedback helps guide our future content.
And just for clarity, you are experiencing a unique two-host AI conversation powered by Google's Notebook LM for deeper, more dynamic book analysis. We should probably jump straight into the story because without that foundation, the full weight of Orwell's argument just doesn't land.
Okay, let's unpack it. I think most people know the basics. It's a story about the animals of Manor Farm.
Led by the pigs.
Who overthrow their drunken human master, Mr. Jones. The goal is to create this utopian society where all animals are equal, free from humans, all guided by this philosophy of animalism.
And on the surface, it's a captivating story. But its real power, its enduring power, comes from how it blends genres so masterfully.
What do you mean?
Well, it operates on three levels at once. It's a satirical fable, so anyone can read it. It's a political allegory, mapping specific historical events. And it's a dystopian novella, showing what happens when power goes unchecked.
And that allegory is what makes it such a shortcut to understanding some really complex history. I mean, Orwell wasn't subtle.
No, not at all. He was essentially writing a thinly veiled history of the Soviet Union.
So when we talk about that initial rebellion,
You're immediately transported to the 1917 Russian Revolution. That's the starting point.
that utopian dream of animalism that mirrors the initial promise of communism, right? Equality, brotherhood.
Exactly. But you see the shift in power almost immediately as the pigs take over the intellectual leadership.
And the characters become these historical markers. The ruthless consolidation of power centers on the boar, Napoleon.
Who's a direct stand-in for Joseph Stalin. He uses force, his 9 vicious dogs, which he took from their mothers, to establish this unaccountable, untouchable elite.
And that initial rivalry between Napoleon and Snowball.
That's the power struggle between Stalin and Leon Trotsky. Snowball, the idealist, the planner who actually wants to improve the farm, is eventually chased off and demonized.
Just like Trotsky was exiled and then, well, assassinated.
Right. And this structure is so key. Orwell doesn't hit you with one big moment of tyranny.
No, it's a slow burn. The narrative unfolds chronologically, so you're forced to watch the slow, cumulative loss of freedom.
It's all the small compromises.
The pigs drinking the milk, sleeping in the farmhouse beds. One by one, they just dismantle the founding ideals.
It's that pattern of repeated disappointment and revised rules that is so chilling. The whole book is just an exercise in watching a revolution's promise decay into the very thing it fought against.
Orwell structured it to make you feel like you're complicit just by watching the slow-motion tragedy. That structural note moves us perfectly into our second section, focusing on the writer's ethos. Why should we trust George Orwell's warning over, say, the official narrative coming out of Moscow at the time?
Well, Orwell had the perfect credentials to write this. He was writing as a democratic socialist.
That's a critical point.
It is, because he wasn't arguing against the ideals of equality or social welfare. He was intensely critical of the betrayal of those ideals by Stalinism. His political experience, witnessing authoritarianism firsthand, it gave him this moral clarity.
So his concern wasn't really about left versus right ideology.
Not at all. It was about basic human freedom and honesty. And that clarity encourages you, the reader, to trust his warning that corrupted power, no matter the ideological banner, always ends in tyranny.
But the context here is just fascinating. The book was written, what, 1943 to 1944?
Not published in 1945, right at the end of World War II. At that time, you have to remember, the Soviet Union was a crucial wartime ally of Britain and the United States.
So open, detailed criticism of the USSR would have been
Politically sensitive, massively so. It was often suppressed and definitely not popular. Orwell struggled immensely to even find a publisher willing to touch such a direct attack on a powerful ally.
That timing really sharpens the book's urgency then.
It does. Orwell was essentially acting as a whistleblower. He was sounding an alarm about systemic abuses when the public was inclined to overlook them for military reasons. The book was a necessary cautionary tale.
And he chose a genius way to deliver it. Simplicity.
The fairy story style. It's accessible to anyone, from a citizen to a student, and it just lowers the reader's defense mechanism.
Right. You start reading a simple story about a horse, boxer, and a pig, Napoleon, and you end up with this profound political critique.
And that plain, direct style, it's free of jargon. It serves a rhetorical purpose, too.
How so?
It contrasts so deliberately and powerfully with the abstract, pompous language the pigs use. Orwell shows that complexity and jargon are tools of the powerful, designed to obscure the simple truth.
Ah, so it's the difference between Old Major's clear vision of justice and Squealer's convoluted excuses for why pigs need milk and apples.
Exactly. And the tone shifts right along with the plot. The opening chapters are full of this hopeful, idealistic energy, the singing of beasts of England.
But by the end,
By the final chapters, the tone has sunk into this deep bitterness and irony. The hope is gone, replaced by the sober recognition that the pigs, drinking whiskey and wearing clothes, are now utterly indistinguishable from the human tyrants they overthrew. It's a tragedy told with dark humor.
which brings us directly to Section 3. The deep analysis of how the pigs weaponize rhetoric to achieve and maintain that domination.
This is where we see the mechanisms of totalitarian control just laid bare, through the manipulation of ethos, pathos, and logos.
So let's start with ethos, their authority. How do they build that?
They establish their legitimacy by defining themselves as the brain workers. They're the intellectuals, the thinkers, the natural leaders. The argument is brutally simple. If the pigs don't think for everyone else, Mr. Jones will come back.
And that argument that their intellectual superiority justifies their privileges is just accepted by the other animals.
Except that the pigs need the extra food for their difficult, taxing work of command. It's a self-serving ethos based entirely on a manufactured necessity.
Then you have pathos, the emotional appeals, and Squealer, the chief propagandist, is a master of this.
He uses emotion in two primary ways to keep the rank and file in line, even when they're starving.
First is just raw fear.
Right? Every policy, every hardship, every single shortage is justified by the imminent threat of the hated external enemy, the return of Mr. Jones.
So no matter how miserable life gets, the thought of Jones returning is always presented as infinitely worse. Fear keeps them obedient.
And second, he evokes nostalgia. He constantly reminds them of the glory of the early revolutionary days, the thrill of the rebellion, that feeling of being their own masters.
That emotional memory distracts them from the reality of dwindling rations, cold stalls, and constant work.
They're living off the fumes of past hope.
And the exploitation of logos, of logic, is maybe the most deceptive part. They don't just tell the animals what to think. They give them the appearance of rational reasons for every atrocity.
Yes, through what Orwell calls statistics.
With falsified production numbers.
Exactly. Squealer is constantly reporting that food production has increased by 200% or 300%, even as the animals feel hungrier than ever. The numbers become a substitute for reality.
He literally argues that the animal's memory must be faulty, because the numbers prove they are better off.
And Orwell is teaching a crucial lesson here about logical fallacies. He's showing how fake numbers and complex arguments can masquerade as truth to obscure injustice. Since the other animals can't challenge the figures, they have no logical defense, they just have to believe.
Wow. And if we're talking about pathos, though, we absolutely have to discuss the tragedy of Boxer.
Oh, absolutely. He's the central emotional figure for the reader. He embodies the suffering of the loyal, dedicated working class who just trusts their leaders implicitly.
His simple, devastating maxims, I will work harder, and Napoleon is always right, they just show his complete dedication and innocence.
He builds the windmill, sacrificing his body, driven by this pure, selfless belief in the cause.
And his final fate, where he collapses from exhaustion and is secretly sold by Napoleon to the glue maker, the knacker. That's the ultimate betrayal.
It is the clearest proof that the regime cares nothing for its followers. They're just disposable assets. The scene where the animals are frantically trying to warn him as he's being driven away is heartbreaking. It generates intense sympathy and righteous anger.
The way Orwell uses that tragedy to force us to think rationally about manipulation is so powerful. Speaking of which, if you are looking for more ways to hone that sharp, rational reading muscle, we recommend checking out Mindful Moments, our YouTube channel offering AI book analysis, summaries, and critiques. We hope to inspire that kind of critical reflection.
Moving into our final section, we have to focus on Orwell's most potent structural technique, the gradual erosion of truth through repetition and revision. This is the mechanism that models exactly how propaganda works.
It really is the ultimate exercise in psychological control. The gradual alteration of the rules, the constant shifting of slogans, it all models how propaganda normalizes the unacceptable over time.
The animal's memory is faulty, but they can see the commandments changing on the barn wall. Yet Squealer is always there with an explanation, revising history instantly.
The cumulative effect of those small changes is a total rewriting of memory and morality.
And the most famous example, of course, is the final revision of the core motto, all animals are equal, which promised liberation.
It's changed incrementally until it becomes the chilling, all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others.
And the satirical force of the book, the thing that makes it funny but also terrifying, comes from the dramatic irony. We, the reader, see the manipulations so clearly.
We know the pigs are lying about Snowball sabotage. We know they sold Boxer for whiskey money.
But the other animals, crippled by their exhaustion, their illiteracy, and their desperate psychological need to believe their sacrifice meant something, they can't see the truth.
That mass complicity, the silent acceptance of obvious lies, that's absolutely crucial to the book's message.
It invites you, the reader, to reflect on your own responsibility today. The animal's slow descent into tyranny, where they actively choose not to remember or question, asks you to consider your own role in observing or resisting oppressive systems.
It's a timeless call to stay informed, remember history, and defend against the gradual erosion of rights.
The book's effectiveness is undeniable precisely because of this blend of emotional fable and clear political allegory. It's memorable, it's teachable, and its relevance extends far beyond Stalin's Russia. You can apply these insights to later dictatorships, modern corporate communication, or any political context where language is used to disguise domination.
Animal Farm is also a warning about cynicism, too. It shows that cynicism leads to inaction, and inaction ensures that tyranny wins.
Which leaves us with this final provocative thought for you to consider based on Orwell's critique. Given how easily we accept complex jargon, official justifications, and cherry-picked number figures today, whether from government, media, or corporations, what is the modern equivalent of the farm animal's exhaustion and complicity? What are we simply too tired to question or too willing to ignore?
A compelling question to leave you with. Click the link on screen for the in-depth book summary. Subscribe, share, purchase via link, and think rationally. See the many genre-based book podcasts at Mindful Moments. Subscribe and nourish your mind on the go.